Welcome everyone to the first Creative Dimension architectural folding class. All you need is a piece of paper, and we're with an A3 paper. A paper has special magical qualities. It is a root 2 system. So if you were to draw a root 2 system geometrically, we could start with a square, and we could take diagonal of the square as our radius for our compass, swing it down, and it would create a root 2 rectangle. Now, the reason we're using the root 2 rectangle is it has lots of special properties. It can fold into all sorts of shapes. We're going to start with the lamp shape today, but we can also make octagons, hexagons, all the shapes we need for polyhedra and 3-dimensional shapes. So it's a plastic form. So this is a root 2, which is basically 1 by 1.414. So you're taking the measurements. Okay. So if you haven't read the blurb, my name is Williamson. I'll just introduce myself properly. And I'm a sculptor. I work in lots of materials. Mostly I work in sewing big architectural carvings, but a lot of my ideas come from paper folding. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is just fold the paper in half. So let's all work together. In fact, I'm going to get another piece of paper quickly because this one's a bit dirty. Okay, I'm going to turn my screen down so that you can see it on here too. So you've got 2 options to see what we're doing. All right, so first thing we're doing is folding the paper in half. Really make sure you get an accurate fold, get right up into the corners. Take your time. These initial folds are really important. Okay, and then we're going to fold it in quarters. So fold up to the center. I'm going to leave it there for a moment just so you can see. Okay. Spin it around and do the same on the other side. Okay, I'm just going to pause in case there's any lags and delays so that you can see what I'm doing. All right, so we have our piece folded into quarters. I'm going to get the camera a bit better on my computer too, so you can see both cameras. All right, now what I'd like you to do is just reverse those folds. So it's the same fold, but we're just folding it backwards. Just to make the folds we've made are really nice. We have a serious articulation there. All right, so you should have your piece folded up into quarters now. I'll leave that there for a second just to focus. You can see what we're doing. Remember, if you have any questions, just ask them in the chat box. Okay, now we're going to fold it into 8s. Okay, for a moment, and turn it around for the other side. I'm just reversing those folds so that you have a nice articulation. Oh. Hello, I hope you're back. Okay, so we have those outer 8s. Now we need to do the inner ones. Now to do that, we can just create a concertina effect. So to find this one, so I'm just going to fold this up like this, and then fold to the center. Okay, And the next one. The last one's already folded. So that we create like a concertina effect. So I'm going to leave that there for a moment. And what you'll see are light areas and shadows, high and low. So these are called mountains and valleys. And this is really important for compressing and expanding the paper to create these three-dimensional forms. All right, so I'll give you a moment just to complete that stage. Remember, the new folds need to be reversed. Just going to reverse folds, make sure they're have that nice articulation, and then I'm going to flatten the whole thing out. So, and that's ready for the next stage. Now, what I'd like you to do is just make a mental note of these 2 points. So we're going to count from one corner, 1, 2, down to here. And then the opposite corner, we're going to count up 1, 2, and make a mark. Okay, so we have these 2 marks. These are the important ones, all right? And leave my fingers there, so in case there's a delay. Now, we move those together. So we're going to join those 2 points. And remarkably, what that should give us is the diagonal of the rectangle. Okay, so I'm going to do it just one more time so you can see. So I'm taking these 2 points and folding them together. All right. Now I'm going to do that in reverse. I'm going to do the other side. So I've got this point here and this one here. So counting 2 facets up. I'm going to join them together. I'll get the diagonal in the opposite direction. Oops. And put a third one there. Just looking at the camera. All right. Okay. I'll leave that for a second for you to just take that in case there's a delay. Push it up, and I have my diagonals. That's a little boo-boo here. And I'm just going to reverse those folds too, just to make sure the fold has a nice articulation. So we have our diagonals. Now what we need to do is to create a series of parallel folds to these diagonals. The first one, we're going to take a corner. So I'm going to choose this corner down here, and I'm going to fold it up to the opposite center. Okay, so this is my center point. I'm going to take the corner, and I'm going to fold it up to that point. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same for all 4 corners. So up from the corner to the opposite center. Okay, and then I'm going to reverse those folds. Sure, articulation, as I said before. Okay. So I'm going to give you a moment just to do that. And you might notice that in the center, we have this nice big ROM. And inside that ROM, you have 4 smaller ROMs. And what you should notice is that the folds are going to start articulating on the vertices of the ROM. You've got a moment. Could you just, in the chat box, just give me like a thumbs up or just let me know that you're all with me? Or that if you need me to slow down. Okay, super. Fantastic. Okay. I think this second cam was actually much good. So I'm just gonna. Okay, so I can see the screen properly. Great, super. All right, Naomi, you're all up to scratch. So we have these ROMs. Okay, now what we need to do, we're going to just go back and fold along the diagonal fold. Okay, so this is a fold that we've already made. So fold on the diagonal, just choose either of them. And then we'll reverse on the fold we just made. So we're just going to reverse that. Then we're going to go back to that center point. Okay, but ultimately what we want is for the new fold to line up with this edge, that diagonal edge. Okay. And leave that there for a second. And then we can fold this little guy back and just line up that edge. Okay, because we want these all to be the parallel folds. All right then. Once I've done that, I'm going to flip the whole thing over and just concertina the other side. So each time just folding up with the edge, making sure it's nice and accurate. So I have a nice long strip. Okay, Naomi, I'm going to do that again. So I'll just leave it here for a second. So once I open that one up, you can see, right? I have a series of folds, all the same width along the diagonal. And now I have to do the other diagonal. All right, so if you, because I've done one to do the other side. All right, so if you missed the first one, first time round, just watch it again. Here we go. Okay, so Naomi and Ibrahim, are you watching? Fold diagonal. So just fold your diagonal. Okay. Now, these are not new folds, just folding on the diagonal. Then you're going to fold back. We already have this fold here. And fold back. And then you're going to fold up, either using the point up here to line up with, or you can just look at this edge down here. Okay, And then we fold the little guy back the corner and just line up that edge. Is everyone cool with that? If you'd like me to that stage, just write it now in the chat group. All right. Okay, so once you've got that, then as we did before, you can just flip it over and just fold backwards and forwards, lining up the edge. So we have just one strip. Okay. Open that up. What I have now is a complete grid of ROMs. And you can already see it once you go three-dimensional. There's all sorts of strange things you can do with this grid. We're going to make a cylinder with it. So if it needs me to wait for a moment, let me know. Otherwise, I'm going to now show you how to fold this into three-dimensional cylinder. Now, as you saw at the beginning, we have mountains and valleys. So we need to create mountains and valleys with the grid we have here. So the first thing we're going to do is focus on the horizontal lines. The horizontal lines all need to be folded in one way, and the diagonals all need to be folded the other. So I'm going to go along and make sure that all my horizontal folds are in one direction. Fold in one, because paper has memory, so that it will remember the previous fold that we just made. So it's going to remember the last fold. So by doing that, we're almost creating just right there. Okay, so I'm making sure that these are all folded. Each fold goes the same way. All right. Then all the diagonal folds, so all these angle folds, need to go the opposite way. So if I'm folding this one this way, the diagonal folds go the other way. So I just fold them one by one. Just crease it the other way to the horizontal folds. So I've done one direction of those diagonals, and now I'm going to do the other. Basically, your horizontal folds all go in one way, and all the other folds have to fold the opposite direction. Okay. I'll give you a moment, but what you might see already is that it's getting a bit three-dimensional. So once you have all those folds, I'm going to take the ends, and I'm going to give you some time to catch up. I'm basically going to take these ends, I'm going to pull them a little bit, and then push it together. You should end up with this beautiful cylindrical shape. All right, leave that there for you to see. You can make very big versions as well. You can do camera. This is just out of a larger piece of paper, but it just has to be an A paper, or you can just make sure you calculate 1 by 1.414 for the edges of the rectangle. So you can see in your camera, you can make very big ones, and they're fantastic lamps. So once you stick it together, you can stick it together with masking tape or Pritt stick, and then you can just put a candle inside a jar, to make sure that it doesn't set fire to your house. And I'll show you the way you can stick it together. So either you can stick it with masking tape edge to edge, like this, So I put the masking tape on the inside, so you can see and end up with a square finish like that. Or you can go a little bit further and stick it with Pritt stick so that you end up more solid finish and a triangle. And this ends up with a really beautiful effect on the center. Oh, hey, James. What stage is your son having trouble? It's still flat. Yeah, so if you have the whole grid, so I'm going to flatten mine out again. So you have the grid. This does take a bit of time to mess with. The most important thing is that all of these folds, so looking at the diagonal folds, these are all one way. And the horizontal folds, opposite direction. Now, sometimes even if you just miss one fold, it's going the wrong way, then it's really hard to collapse. Yeah, it does take a bit of time. I'd recommend, so if it's flat like this and all the folds are definitely in the right direction, just go over all of them to check they're all correct. You take the top and the bottom here, and I pull it a little bit, and then push it back together. So just pull it, and then it should just flow into this three-dimensional shape. And you can even leave it a little bit like a tunnel, like this. There's so much you can do with it. Sometimes we've made them in colored paper, and you also cut little triangles inside too, just small little voids like this, and that will let the light through. So it's all about the triangles. Obviously, this is not going to work with equilateral triangles, so it has to be isosceles triangles. How are you doing now, James? It probably just takes a bit of fiddling around, but as long as you have this grid, and you're fine. It's a bit of maybe 10 or 15 minutes of just manipulating it and trying to get it. It's a sort of combination of being very gentle and a little bit aggressive at the same time. But I'd recommend just taking the top and bottom, pull it, and then push them back together. All the folds are in the correct orientation, then it should come together. Sometimes I find that thicker paper is easier, so I'm using cartridge paper. So it's easier for the three-dimensional elements than just printing paper. But the printing paper is much better for the final results. So when you're making a lamp, the light's going to come through with more lubricants. Okay. All right. So that's the end of this session. It'd be great if you could send in some pictures of what you've done. The following sessions, we're going to get a little bit more ambitious each time. So I'll show you some of the things we're going to work on. So beautiful kind of concertina effects like this. So we're going to take that concept that we just worked on, you can take it even further. So you can create incredible things. This is just playing around with this one. This is probably something that we'll work on next week. This is just using a series of squares, and the diagonal lines in each square just alternate. But the fold is a bit more complex. But this again makes a fantastic lamp. You do all sorts of things with this one. That's incredible. But yeah, the video has been recorded, so it might be just a case of you go to stages again if you have any problems. Some of the patterns that we're going to do can be resolved in ways that, in a more spontaneous way, improvised way. So I'll give you a grid. This is a hexagonal grid, a series of triangles that can then get compressed in whatever way you like. So maybe on the third or fourth week, we'll do a more improvised session where you can go off and see how you can compress it in your own way. Then if we manage, we might look at more kinetic structures like these. This might be one of the last two sessions, depending on how we get on. because this is a little bit of a new format. Usually I teach this all in groups, so I can go and help you one by one. Okay. So Naomi is just asking about the cylinder, how we put it into a cylinder. Okay, so I'm going to find that out again. I'm not sure which stage you mean, but from the flat stage. Let's start from here. Made sure I had all my folds going the right orientation. So again, horizontal was going one way, diagonal was going the opposite way. Pull the top and the bottom, get back together, and wrap it up. And then, as I said, you can either go all the way around and join it up again like that, and that will give you a triangle at the top. And this can just be, you can just stick it together with Pritt stick, or you can just resolve it to edge like that, which will give you a square at the end. Okay, and then you can just put a little jar inside of the candle in. It has a fantastic effect. So another here, so you can see where I put the masking tape on that join. This one's a bit bashed up. You can see it on the screen, it's a really big one. So this is just using, you could just use a flip pad for this. All right, well, I think we're almost at the end of the session. If you have any other questions, just put them in the chat box before we break up. But as I say, the work's going to be it's going to be recorded and uploaded tomorrow. So you can watch it back again. And if you have any questions, now's your chance to put them in the chat box. But otherwise, thank you very much. A wonderful session. I'd love to see how you got on. So if there's a way you can send us a picture, that'd be great. If you can, try to get paper before you forget the process, and try it with the candle inside, or even use the light setting on your camera. That's often works really well. So just use the torch, put it upside down inside the column and turn all the lights out, and you'll get a beautiful effect. You can see all the nice shadows on the pattern, and send us a picture of how you finish off. All right then, well, I'll see you all next week.